All right, welcome to this week's weekly market prep watch list by Bill Play Trading. Here are the names that we're going to go over. I think a good majority of these names are pretty actionable. The ones that are highlighted in orange here are most likely the ones that are most actionable with setups for longs specifically coming up this week. All right, well, take a picture, take a screenshot, whatever you need to do. Let's get to it. Okay, firstly, let's look at the S&P 500 cash index. This is obviously strong. This is obviously holding the 8, probably even a shorter timeline MA up here. The trend is your friend until it bends in the end. Don't fight this tape. Just like my video last week, I would not fight this. I would not continue to try and short the top. It's not worth it, right? You don't need to be looking for shorts up here. Not financial advice. That's just my opinion because I'm certainly not doing that. The Nasdaq, again, super strong. Equally weighted Qs. Base, it just broke out of this large base. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'll say 7 days above it. We might get a pullback back into it, which is fine. However, it's still above the 8, it's still above the 21. You have a golden cross here if you care about that stuff. That happened a couple of weeks ago, I guess. But either way, if you care about that, there you go. RSP, equally weighted 500. Right here. Prior resistance. It's breaking out into all-time highs. It's holding it. It's time corrected and now it's pushing higher on Friday. This is, to me and many of other people that I listen to, this is not a bubble. There's so much fear going around X and other places, mainstream media and blah blah blah, trying to scare you. Like there's that dude, I think it was on CNBC, that wrote the book. Oh, there's going to be a crash. I'm not going to tell you when. I can't tell you how far. Blah blah blah. Like, no, duh. Like obviously, there's going to be a crash at some point in time in our lives. Like that's just expected. So that's just a silly statement in my opinion. Okay, either way, I'll get off my soapbox here. Microsoft, number one. Nice push off of consolidation, the earnings consolidation. I'm going to delete this here. It's now above the 200 EMA, which is nice. And I was saying, hey, watch out for this gap fill potential here. It looks like the gap fill is potentially underway. So be mindful of that. Amazon holding highs here, downtrend line, breaks it, sets a higher low. It maintains the anchor VWAP hold here. It's above the 8. Yeah, it's got a little topping tail on volume on Friday. However, I would still look for a potential higher low to be set somewhere within this realm. We'd want a higher low set for sure above this 260. I'd look for this pivot on gap of 265 to 269. This area with confluence of the 21 EMA and the anchor VWAP from this low, this area might be of interest for a potential pullback buy for an Amazon continuing into all-time highs, basically. So that looks pretty solid. Meta looks good. Really, like big picture, it's not really doing anything. But if we zoom in a little bit from the earnings here, the chopping around, the zone, it finally broke out on volume, working on the gap fill. I actually think Meta is pretty actionable going into early this week. Anything into Friday's range, I'd even say within this, what I just marked, let's just say 630, 629, 630 area. Friday's low could be a pretty decent area to risk against. If it undercuts this low of 623.36 and then reclaims it, I think that would be an even better trade because that would be an undercut of an 8 and a 21, potentially an anchor VWAP tag from here. It retests the consolidation range. I think that would be a pretty solid one. So I'm actually going to set an alert for that as well. Google's strong, but it looks like it might need to start consolidating here. It's getting a little sloppy on top. Nice little downtrend line there. Failed to hold it, failed to move higher. It's below the 21. This is an area of interest, but I think a little bit of rest would be good. Oracle, Trump's ethics filings came out, and his team, or however that works, they bought millions of dollars in Oracle and Meta and Amazon and all these names. So that came out, and look at the volume here. We have huge volume over the last 2 days here. Big moves. I've been mentioning Oracle over the past few weeks, mentioned the consolidation range, saying, hey, this looks like a reversal, then it breaks out of this, which is nice. It gets rejected at 200 EMA, which is why you don't necessarily take it. It retests the breakout range, which is great, and then it sets a higher high. I went over this in my FinX video, so go watch that video. You'll have a good idea of what I'm talking about. Holds the 200 this time around and now pushes even higher, breaks this prior resistance, breaks that prior resistance. So I am looking for a pullback this week in Oracle to potentially buy into. I would love a pullback into this 202.20 to 119 area. I'll be watching for that. That'd be also confluence with the 8 EMA. Anything within this blue area, I think it'd be questionable. I'd be okay if it chopped around, but with a price correction, that's what I'm looking for here. With a time correction, I'd just wait for it to get tight underneath this prior area of resistance for it to build up some energy and go. Apple strong. It just continues to grind. Nothing special there. Tesla. I took a trade on Tesla. I went over the trade review on that. Go watch that video on my channel. I'm starting to do trade reviews basically on how I do stuff. If hopefully it's helpful for you guys. Took it here, and I think I sold it here. Missed out on a couple days, but it was okay. It's like a 6-hour trade. I'm not mad about it. Nice bottoming tail on Friday. Undercut of the 8 and reclaim. Couldn't even get to the anchor VWAP from this prior low. I think any like morning selling, depending on where we open. This stuff is hard. I don't know where we're opening at, but anything within this range, I think is pretty good to buy and risk Friday's low. For sure, if we break higher through this pivot on gap here, this 446.57, this would be an interesting buy with a potential risk on 444.38, just below this pivot on gap. Maybe that would clear us on this pivot on gap. However, I would prefer to get somewhere down here so we have a little bit more cushion to potentially, just in case it gets rejected at this prior area as well. So you just be mindful. It's either you get down here or you wait until 453 to break and hold, and then we can continue on to all-time highs or something like that. So that's kind of a plan there. Palantir has been boring. It is not boring anymore. I do think these past couple of days with contracts and it got something with like the FDA contract, or the FDA is agriculture. I think it's something with agriculture. Either way, they're getting more government contracts. It's in a big consolidation range. It's finally above the 200. It's above the 8. It's above the anchor VWAP from this prior low. You know what? I don't even care about that. I'm going to take that away. It's looking good. This right here tells us, hey, this is about to be in place. So this is kind of what I'm looking for. A couple of days, gets rejected somewhere around here, has a little pullback, and then sets off to go. We can put an anchor VWAP on the actual move, the start of the move itself. I'm going to change the color of that, and then maybe look for something in 148 or so, I suppose. It didn't even fill this gap, a gap above it, a gap below it. So I would watch also for Friday's low, maybe a little undercut and reclaim somewhere in there. But I do think PLTR, if it can pull back, it was kind of like NVIDIA's. I'll go over it shortly here. Kind of like, hit resistance, pull back, set a higher low, build some energy, and then we break out of this range to get going in a stage 2 uptrend. CrowdStrike, super strong name. This gave you 1 day to get in, and it just continues to rip. I'm not chasing it up here, but if we do get any significant amount of pullback, this would be a name to be in, like a quick down move to the 21. Yeah, I would snag it. With tight risk, obviously, it might not work. You have to know that. But it's a strong name, and it's a place to be in. Now, had some news come out. I forget what it was. Basically on AI tailwinds, though. But has a nice gap, has some volume coming in. It's a nice reversal play. The risk reward is kind of stretched at the 200 here. So it's not super interesting. Adobe got some nice volume coming in, reversal play. You just got to let it prove itself first. Snow, large gap. I would let this digest after earnings, but look at this downtrend line, another reversal play. DDOG continues to grind up, nothing here. MDB looks pretty interesting, actually. I would watch for this 340 to break. Maybe even, I'd watch for 340 to break. You got to find somewhere to risk in here. That's kind of hard, especially with that bottom tail. I'd like this to fill out to get better risk. CRM, look at this. Downtrend line above the 50, above the 8, above the 21. You got an 8 and 21 cross if you care about that stuff. You might be able to call this a double bottom soon. It's large volume after earnings is out of the way. That nice little push to a flag. The 200 EMA is way above at 215, so it's got plenty of room to potentially run. It's got room to run the 205 at the prior resistance area. So this is pretty, I do think CRM is pretty good. So if you want to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set an alert for any like pullback within about 50% of Friday's range. That might be pretty decent to look into. You have the 3-day pivot here you might be able to risk against. The low of that is 182.96-ish. You might even be able to risk against the low of Friday, which is 179.70. So any pullback within Friday's range could be a decent area. A pullback even deeper to this 177.07 to 176.47 might even be better, and to risk the low of 171.77, which would be Thursday low. So CRM looks pretty solid too. IBM, that's not IBM, that's Netflix, which is, don't even waste your time. IBM, I mentioned it here. This is a stand up and take notice day. I missed this entry, just simply couldn't get in, and it rocketed. This is volatility is entered, a name to be in. Just got to wait for it to calm down. Netflix, if you like to short, sure, there you go. It's a waste of time. There's a lot better names to be in. I took a trade in NVIDIA. This is a big range, breakout and coming back for a retest. A higher low is still yet to be made. We have, on the daily time frame anyways, basically until 195 for a higher low to be set. Maybe somewhere within this where the 50 EMA is, and we have a pivot on gap of 206.37 and 203.44. So 204.85, call it somewhere in there. That might be pretty interesting to see if we can find a higher low there. We are underneath the anchor VWAP from the all-time high. I don't know what this volume was on Friday or why it flushed at the end of the day. I took a quick trade. It's like it was a 0.5 R. I managed my risk very tightly. Nothing really too crazy. Broadcom. Broadcom is a name I think you need to be in. Look at the volume. Just be mindful. We have earnings on Wednesday, right? So if you're going to do this, you got to get in on Monday, and I get out on Tuesday. When is earnings? Wednesday. I'd get out on Wednesday. Maybe we get a little run up into earnings. A lot of names have been gapping huge on earnings. However, some have not. And then also some have gone the opposite way. I do not hold to earnings. I don't recommend that you do it. You do what you want to do. This is never financial advice, but I don't hold to earnings because you can get absolutely crushed. Going options route is the best way to go because risk is managed ahead of time. AMD continues to run. No shocker. TSM, you got to wait to see if it holds these highs here. It's at all-time highs. Just got to wait to see if it wants to hold and it wants to push it. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. Nice little base here. I'm just, these names have made such a huge run, like Micron. It continues to go. I've been saying, hey, it's a bubble, it's a bubble, it's a top. It's a top. It was 2 weeks ago. Guess what? They're still freaking running. You don't know this stuff, which is why you manage your risk. And if it's working, great. If it's not, then get out and get out of the way. But most of these names, they've made huge runs. I think the risk reward is just not there anymore. And on my style, with short to moderate turn, like 1 to 5 days holding. Sometimes if I have a nice cushion, I'll hold it a little bit longer. These risk reward on these names, it's just not there now because you've missed the main meat of the move. At this point, I think you're chasing it. ARM, I was waiting for a place to get in. This didn't even allow you to get a place to get in. I marked it after it even broke out from this huge base. And then I marked it as it was consolidating. And guess what? I watched it go without me the entire time, which is fine. I didn't have an opportunity to get it. This was my entry. I was looking at 246.96, somewhere in that pivot on gap. Never came back and never gave me an entry. So the train ran without me. I'm fine with it. It's still a place to pay attention to. Qualcomm, I think this is also a place to pay attention to. It just super strong move. It's breaking out into all-time highs. It's holding it, right? There it is, right there, 229.96-ish, 231 area. You got to make sure it holds these all-time highs and push higher. It looks decent, though. DELL, huge gap. I let that digest. HPE, huge gap. We got earnings on Monday night. I'm not touching it until that happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see what it does. WDC, Western Digital Corporation. This is breaking out into all-time highs. Look at the monthly chart. Super strong. Right? Look at the weekly. Very strong. Nice bottom and tail. We got a follow through. Last week, this looks like it has good potential to continue on. It's time correcting as of now. I think anything, within this Tuesday's at 26 bar might be pretty good to risk against. Even this gap here, The high on this one is 489.99, so 489.98 might be a good stop loss if you can find some sort of risk within Tuesday. WDC, I think, is a good place to be in. STX, Seagate, super monster runner. Like, it's a strong name, just like Mu and Micron, and all the other chip names. Arista Networks, I called this last week and say, hey, it's looking like it's a gap fill, had a little pullback, little flag to the 21 and the 8, and then ripped off it. Nice volume too. So I think we get a gap fill this week at 169.91. If you could find some sort of risk within there, I got my alert, but I wasn't able to catch it while I was at work. So whatever, I missed it, which is fine. So I actually will be looking for a potential entry for this trade. I would like it to tag this pivot on gap and potentially fill in a reclaim, or not be able to fill it, which would be even better. So I'm looking for a ANET gap fill this week. CIEN, I took a trade last week, Tuesday, did not work. I got stopped out the next day. Nice shakeout, bottoming tail on Friday on volume. I think, it's 45% away from all-time highs, but if we zoom out, that's all the way back here, right? So I'm not worried about that. It's hitting relative recent highs. So this looks pretty solid to continue on, in my opinion, especially after the shakeout. I would not mind to risk something within Friday's pivot to risk against. CORH, I thought, I would have liked this to run a little bit quicker than what it has. Maybe it gets going next week. It's a little hard right now. GLW, it's doing what it needs to do. I think it needs to base a little bit more, but overall it looks good. LITE, Lumentum, this is a hot name. It might be distributing right now. We might get some cash flow going back into it. It's at the 50 EMA. We'll see, but this could, if you're a support buyer, this could be a decent area to support against. ENTG, nothing to see here. 4Weave, here we go. These guys, I think, are super actionable this week. This is all-time highs here. Let's put an anchor VWAP, see where it's at relative to that. So we do have anchor VWAP from all-time highs just above, so you got to be mindful of that. However, what I really like about it is it's had a very nice pullback. It's still 41% away from all-time highs, but this recent pullback here from this high to this low was 30%. This thing moves. It's still off 20% until this most recent high. So you have some room to run here. It's holding the 200, it's holding the 50, it's above the 8, and it's above the 21. We could get an 8 and 21 pinch if you care about that type of stuff, but it's starting to round. It's starting around. So it looks really good. Downtrend line broke and made a higher high. Earnings was pretty solid. It just gave a little back, which is fine. Now it's starting to find a base and starting to bid. I do think this is actionable. I would not mind buying somewhere within this blue box 108 to 105 area. Nice tight risk. I'm just going to set an alert, see what happens there, and we'll see where it opens up on Monday. Same thing, similar thing with NBIS, except this group is at all-time highs on volume, solid bottoming tail, pivot on gap from Tuesday held. I think anything within this range of Friday is pretty viable. Otherwise, you want to watch the break of the all-time highs. We'll see where it opens. But CRWV, NBIS, and IREN Limited, I think are top looks this week. Here we go. Prior level of resistance, 62, 61-ish area. Tagged it, failed here, consolidated, failed to break lower, and range is opposite target, hit it, pulled back, higher low, made. This is kind of what I was looking at. This is what I'm looking for in whatever name I was talking about, when the reversal that I was talking about. I forget what it was. But pullback, higher low. Now it makes a higher high. Now it makes a higher low. We'll see. It's retesting that 62 area now, has a nice bottom tail on it. So I do think this low, even better yet, maybe if you want to give a little extra, Wednesday's low of 59.83 could be pretty decent to risk against. So this looks pretty good to me, honestly. If you get something within Friday's range, somewhere in, that might be of interest. So I think those are pretty solid to move. CORZ, I marked this as it was breaking out to all-time highs. I'm looking for the pullback to the retest. This, let's just call it 25, 25 to 25 flat area looks interesting. APLD, I missed this move. It's kind of struggling. This could be a good area to risk against somewhere within here. We'll see what it has to bring. GEV, nothing to write home about. VRT, nothing to write home about. They're all kind of setting up. Caterpillar looks pretty decent. Downtrend line here still. It's flagging to the 21, which is good. This could be a higher low here. It's holding the anchor VWAP from this low right here, as you can see. Everything's trending up. We just need a little bit of juice. Maybe it gets that juice this week. BE, this a lot of people, this is a popular one. It's super hard to trade in my opinion. It moves. When it moves, but that's in both directions. So you got to manage your risk with it. Exxon, CVX, they're both at prior support areas, pretty extended. All they did was sell off over the past like week and a half. So we could get a little bounce in oil potentially this week in these names. LNG Cheniere is just melting. KMI at a potential support area. CCJ bounced off a support area. I wouldn't diddle in the middle. It's kind of in the middle right now. SMR I think is actionable this week. I bought this in my long-term account somewhere around here, and it's coming up. Downtrend line breaking. It's above the 50. It's above the 8.21. We got an 8.21 pitch. It's holding the anchor pinch. It's holding an anchor VWAP from this prior low. This is a higher low versus this low. This looks good for next week. I am looking for a break of Friday's highs somewhere in here. This thing moves, right? Look at this. It's 3%, then 3%, then 16% in one day. Then it's down 6-7%. So this thing moves. You have to be ready for that. However, that volatility when it comes in, volatility is a trader's best friend. So you need to find a way to get involved and manage your risk and go from there. So I will be watching SMR somewhere within this 1250 range, a 1310 range. Some maybe even risking. We'll see if you get an undercut of that little, maybe within this 12 area too. So SMR looks pretty interesting. OKLO. This also looks pretty interesting. Potential higher low right here relative to here. It's still struggling at the 200 EMA. I'd like for it to get above it. It's close. SMR, the 200 EMA is way up here. It's far away, right? So there's plenty of room to run. The next thing would be 1416 on SMR. It's got to break. If it breaks that, then we can go to maybe 1776, and then by that time, the 200 EMA would be pretty close. NXE, nothing to say here. FSLR, I missed this entire thing. I've been tracking it, watching it, haven't had an opportunity to get in. It just rips and roars off into all-time highs, which is absolutely great. This is volatility. This is a place to be in. You need to set up. NXT, I was marking this base, breakout, retest. I'm pretty sure I put something up on the 22nd as it was pushing away, and here we go, it rips. So I would keep this on watch after this gap, especially on volume. Let it chop around, let it price correct or time correct, let the EMAs catch up, blah, 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 whatever it is, and look for a place to potentially buy. I think this needs some time though. FLNC, this looked pretty good until it didn't. Nothing to say here. HAL, nothing to say. VLO, nothing to say. MPC, I mean, it's like holding all-time highs-ish. It looks like it's going to fail to break out, honestly. I wouldn't be shocked if we get this 230-ish area. MP, materials, silver and gold and metals are actually looking interesting. This is still in the middle, though. ALB, Albemarle, this could be a potential bear flag. It looks like it's starting to trend downwards. It's under the 50, it's under the 8, the 21's coming on down. The 200 is just below. It does have this prior support. I wouldn't be shocked if we hit 155 at some point in time, so just be mindful of that. If you want to take a short, that might be one right there. FCX is chopping around. Copper is super interesting. SCCO, this one is pretty tight. I would watch for a breakout of this 195, 196 area. Things are trending upwards, but really it's just in range, right? Just like a lot of these metals names we're going to scan through real quickly. All they're doing is they're just ranging. So they've bounced off of the lows of the ranges or uptrend lines and whatever, and they're just beep bopping in between them, right? So that's got to fill it out. PAAS, sorry. This is bouncing off this trend line here, right? WPM continues to fill in this wedge type. I'd wait for it to break. HL, I bought some of this so I could be diversified in my long-term account. I bought it on Thursday or Friday. I think I bought it on Thursday. Basically a support play, 200 EMA play. Let me draw some lines for you to make it easy to see. Right there. That's what I'm looking at, right? However, it's just at bottom range. So if you're a range trader, this could be a decent range trade. Target's 21. Let's see, next, AG, again, look at this. Range, support place, right? Target, AG, 23. Gold, again, support play, in range. This one's got a little bit of a wedge going down to it, though. You can go that way, right? Bounce play, support play. Dark mining, support play, downtrend line break. We'll see what happens here. I'm not super interested in metals right now. Space is a place you need to be. RKLB, super strong move, especially after earnings. Here's the anchor VWAP. I have the time on there, or an alert, 124.25-ish area, 125. I would not mind it, 127.34 to 126.08 pullback. That'd be pretty solid. I don't know if we're going to get that, though. And if we do get that, look at these bottom tails. It does nothing but get bought up. And so I do think any pullbacks within the space area, you have to, it is a buy. And specifically, what happened with LUNR? So this thing got crushed in 30 minutes. It pulled back 26%. But what did it do the next 2 days? It gapped up against it and did nothing but get bought up. How do you think these people feel? These people that potentially shorted down here or shorted this bounce at the end of the day, they are automatically in the hole. These people that shorted down here, potentially on volume, they're now underwater. They're feeling the pressure right now. And as it continues to get bought up, they're going to have to cover. And I think that covering is probably going to send LUNR even higher. Now, why do I say this? LUNR, I do think, is in play. I'm going to set an alert somewhere around here. However, ASTS, this is why I say this, it got sold off, closed down 14.8, let's just say 15%. From the high to the low, within 24 hours, it was down 22%. Okay. If this wants to do the same thing LUNR did, ASTS is buyable. We'll see if it gaps up. We'll see what happens. I don't know. We'll just see what happens. But I would look for an area to potentially buy into ASTS, especially for this week. I think that looks pretty solid. PL, bottoming tail, undercut, gap fill, all of it. Nothing but bought up on volume. Watch for the break of the highs. Buyable, in my opinion. I'm not telling you to buy it. It's not financial advice, but I'm looking for a position. IRDM, buyable, right? Pivot on gap. This is why you can't unsee these things. Pivot on gap held. 48, 42, 47, 57. It happens all of the time. This is why I like to pivot on gap pullback trades. So IRDM, look, it's another strong name to be in. LMT, defensive names look pretty interesting, but they're really boring. There's a lot of better names that I literally just went through that you should be in. GE, I'd look for a pullback if you want to set an anchor VWAP to the prior low here off this recent push. That brings it to 302, 300-ish area. I think that's interesting. RTX, Joby, last week I talked about, hey, we got a gap fill coming up potentially, and it looks like it's working on that. That gap fill target is 1317. I think it makes it this week. So maybe look for an entry in here for a short little quick trade. Your risk reward's got to be worth it though. Archer looks decent. I just don't like how close to 200 EMA is. Potential supply right there, especially with this prior supply area, this 750, 740, 750 area. It's just, I don't know, risk reward I don't think is there. ONDS, I just added this one. Look at this. Base, break, retest on volume. Nice bottom tail, inside day Friday. This looks like it's about to rip. So I do think ONDS, if we get another inside day on Monday, get some like a wedge pattern forming some sort, that wouldn't be too bad. Just to let that fill out, get tight, get a good risk reward setup. I would watch for something like that. Okay, let's move on to Hood. Hood, somewhere to be. Trump accounts. That was like Hood was their number one choice or something like that. So we have 2 days of huge volume coming in. It's finally breaking this consolidation area. Not just yet. It's got to hold it. I would look for a pullback within this 82.97 to 79.23. I think that's viable to set a higher low within the consolidation, get a little tight, and then finally break out of consolidation. We do have this downtrend line we have to be mindful of. We got a lot of pivot on gaps above head. We got a lot of gap to fill above head. We have prior resistance that we're close to now. We're just the first time over the 200 EMA in how long? Since late January. So this looks like it's turning around. There's going to be plenty of time, especially if this becomes in play. Coin looks like it's going to start breaking down again. MSTR looks like trash. UPS, nothing really to say here. It's just bouncing and ranging. There's volatility here. I just think there are better places to be. FedEx is breaking out to all-time highs, getting tight, time correcting. It looks like this could continue to move. It moves decently. It's not a high flyer, but it moves. 2, 3, maybe 4% on average. CME getting crushed after this rip. It's a nothing but sell-off. So maybe this looks like it might be going down to 262 area, somewhere around there. All right, that is this week's. Again, let me show you the focus of this week. Again, here are the names to focus on. I think CRWV, IREN, SMR, NBIS, that one's not highlighted. It should be. I think those are the names to focus on this upcoming week. ANET for a potential gap fill, and then Tesla is always on top as well. Oh, ASTS too. Those are kind of my top looks here. Hopefully this stuff is helpful for you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, if you want names, let's work together, things like that. And I will catch you next week. Thanks for your time.